The maintenance bay of Station Omega-7 hummed with the steady rhythm of machinery. But today, that peaceful sound was broken by angry growling and the crash of metal hitting the deck. Chief Engineer Maya Chen wiped grease from her hands and looked up from the plasma conduit she was repairing to see what was causing the commotion. Through the transparent aluminum window that separated the main bay from the docking area, she could see him. Vex Kalar, the Fenrathi enforcer who had arrived 3 days ago with a merchant convoy. Even from this distance, he was an intimidating sight. Standing nearly 8 feet tall on his hind legs, his wolf-like features were enhanced by cybernetic implants that glowed with a menacing blue light. His silver fur was marked with scars from countless battles, and his reputation for violence preceded him wherever he went. Right now, he was terrorizing a group of dock workers who were trying to unload his personal cargo. His massive claws scraped against the metal decking as he paced back and forth, his voice carrying even through the reinforced walls. "Pathetic weaklings," Vex Kalar snarled, his words translated through the universal communicator system. "My equipment requires precision handling, not the fumbling of inferior species." Maya watched as one of the Altarian dock workers, a peaceful blue-skinned humanoid, accidentally dropped a corner of a large crate. Vex Kalar's reaction was swift and brutal. He backhanded the worker, sending the smaller being flying across the deck to crash into a pile of supply containers. "That's enough," Maya muttered under her breath, but she forced herself to stay focused on her work. Station Omega-7 was a neutral trading post, which meant they had to tolerate all kinds of visitors, even the unpleasant ones. The Fenrathi Confederacy was a major player in this sector, and their enforcers like Vex Kalar were given wide latitude to conduct their business without interference. The other workers had stopped what they were doing, too afraid to continue. Vex Kalar stood over his victim, his cybernetic eye implants glowing brighter as his anger increased. "Perhaps you need a permanent reminder of how to handle valuable equipment," he growled, extending his claws. That was too much for Maya. She might be just a mechanic, but she had principles. Setting down her plasma torch, she activated the bay's intercom system. "Hey, big guy," she called out, her voice echoing across the docking area. "How about picking on someone who can fight back?" Vex Kalar's head snapped up, his enhanced hearing easily locating the source of the voice, his predatory gaze fixed on the maintenance bay window, and Maya could feel the weight of his attention even through the barrier. Slowly, he stood to his full height and began walking toward her location. Maya's colleagues in the maintenance bay had gone silent. Tommy Rodriguez, her assistant, moved closer to her workstation. "Maya, what are you doing?" he whispered urgently. "That's a Fenrathi enforcer. They're killers." "I know what he is," Maya replied calmly, not taking her eyes off the approaching alien. "The question is whether he knows what I am." Vex Kalar reached the maintenance bay entrance and activated the door controls with one massive paw. The reinforced steel doors slid open with a hiss, and he stepped inside. The temperature in the room seemed to drop as his presence filled the space. His cybernetic implants cast eerie shadows on the walls, and the smell of ozone and something wild followed him. "You dare challenge me, human?" Vex Kalar's voice was a low rumble that seemed to vibrate through the deck plating. "Do you have any idea who I am?" Maya continued working on her plasma conduit, not bothering to look up from her task. "I know you're someone who thinks he's tough because he beats up dock workers who can't fight back," she said matter-of-factly. "Not exactly impressive where I come from." The other maintenance workers quickly found urgent business elsewhere in the bay, leaving Maya and Tommy alone with the enforcer. Vex Kalar took another step closer, his claws scraping against the metal flooring. "I am Vex Kalar of the Blood Moon clan," he announced, as if his name should carry some special weight. "I have killed warriors from a dozen different species. I have torn apart enemy battleships with my bare claws. And you, little human, think you can insult me?" Now Maya did look up, meeting his gaze with steady brown eyes. She was a small woman by human standards, barely 5.5 feet tall, with calloused hands and oil stains on her coveralls. Next to the massive Fenrathi, she looked like a child facing down a monster. But there was something in her expression that gave him pause. "I think you're compensating for something," Maya said with a slight smile. All that posturing and threatening. Sounds like someone who's not as confident as he pretends to be. All acted. Vex Kalar's cybernetic implants flared brighter, and a low growl rumbled in his chest. You will show respect, or I will teach it to you. Respect is earned, not demanded, Maya replied, turning back to her work. And threatening civilians doesn't earn you anything except a reputation as a bully. The Fenrathi enforcer was clearly not used to being dismissed so casually. In his culture, strength was everything, and his reputation was built on fear and intimidation. This tiny human mechanic was treating him like he was nothing more than an annoyance. Perhaps you need a demonstration of what happens to those who show me disrespect, Vex Kalar snarled, raising one massive clawed hand. That's when Maya finally gave him her full attention. She set down her tools and stood up slowly, her movements deliberate and controlled. When she turned to face him, there was something in her eyes that made the mighty enforcer take an involuntary step backward. You know what your problem is? Maya asked conversationally, as if they were discussing the weather instead of violence. You think fear equals respect. You think being big and mean and scary makes you strong. But real strength isn't about intimidating people who can't fight back. She took a step toward him, and amazingly, Vex Kalar found himself taking another step back. Real strength is about solving problems, about building things instead of just destroying them, about making things work when everyone else has given up. Maya gestured around the maintenance bay, with its complex machinery and sophisticated equipment. You see all this? Every system on this station, every piece of technology that keeps us alive in the vacuum of space? It was built by people like me, engineers, mechanics, technicians. We're the ones who actually keep civilization running. Vex Kalar's confusion was evident. This wasn't how these confrontations usually went. His victims were supposed to cower and beg for mercy, not lecture him about engineering philosophy. You want to know what I think? Maya continued, her voice remaining calm and steady. I think underneath all that cyber enhancement and genetic modification, you're just another person who's afraid of being seen as weak, so you overcompensate with violence and threats. The enforcer's claws extended fully, and his cybernetic eye implants began to glow with dangerous intensity. Enough of your pathetic psychology, he growled. I will show you what real power looks like. Maya smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant expression. Go ahead and try. But just so you know, this maintenance bay has some very interesting security features. Features that I designed and installed myself. Complete. As if responding to her words, a low humming sound began to fill the air. Vex Kalar looked around nervously as various displays and control panels began to light up around the room. See, that's the difference between you and me, Maya explained, walking over to a nearby control console. You solve problems with brute force. I solve them with intelligence and preparation. Her fingers danced across the control interface with practiced ease. Around the bay, various pieces of equipment began to move and reconfigure themselves. Robotic arms extended from hidden panels in the ceiling. Plasma torches ignited automatically, and containment fields shimmered into existence. This is my domain, Maya said simply. In here, I'm not just a mechanic. I'm the person who knows every system, every circuit, every possible way things can go wrong or right. And right now, I'm thinking things might go very wrong for someone who threatens my people. Vex Kalar was beginning to realize that he might have underestimated this human. The casual confidence in her voice, the way she commanded the technology around her, the complete lack of fear in her eyes. It was all very different from what he was used to encountering. You cannot threaten me with your toys, he said, but there was less certainty in his voice than before. I am Fenrathi. We conquered the vegan system through strength alone. Maya paused in her work at the console and looked at him with genuine curiosity. The vegan system? You mean the one where your ships kept breaking down until human engineers had to fix them? The one where your ground forces got lost until human navigators showed them the way? That conquest? The Fenrathi's fur bristled with indignation. Those are lies spread by inferior species to diminish our achievements. Actually, they're facts documented in the battle reports, Maya said cheerfully. I read them when I was studying multi-species engineering protocols. Fascinating stuff, really. Did you know that Fenrathi technology has a 15% higher failure rate than the galactic standard? Something about your species' focus on raw power over reliability. Tommy, who had been watching this exchange with growing amazement, couldn't help but smile. Maya was doing what she did best, taking apart a problem piece by piece until she understood exactly how it worked. And right now, she was taking apart Vex Kalar's entire worldview. The Enforcer was clearly struggling with this new information. His entire identity was built around the superiority of his species and their military might. The suggestion that they might need help from inferior species was deeply disturbing. We are warriors, he insisted. We fight with honor and strength. I'm sure you do, Maya agreed. But what happens when your weapons jam? When your ships lose power? When your communication systems fail? She gestured around the maintenance bay again. That's when you need people like me. For the first time since entering the bay, Vex Kalar seemed uncertain. His cybernetic implants had dimmed slightly, and his aggressive posture had relaxed just a fraction. Maya sensed the shift and pressed her advantage. Tell me, Enforcer, what's your backup plan if your cybernetic systems malfunction during a fight? Do you know how to repair them yourself? Or would you need to find a mechanic? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Vex Kalar opened his mouth to respond, then closed it again. The truth was, he had no idea how his cybernetic implants actually worked. They had been installed by specialists and maintained by technicians. He had never bothered to learn the details. Maya watched his face carefully and nodded as if confirming something she had already suspected. That's what I thought. You're completely dependent on people like me to keep your enhancements working, but you treat us like we're beneath you. The maintenance bay had gone completely quiet, except for the humming of machinery. Tommy was staring at Maya with newfound respect, while Vex Kalar stood frozen in place, apparently lost in thought. Finally, Maya turned back to her work on the plasma conduit. Look, I don't have a problem with you personally, she said over her shoulder. But I do have a problem with bullies. If you want to be treated with respect, start by showing some respect to others, and maybe try to remember that the people you're intimidating are the same people who keep your technology running. Vex Kalar remained motionless for several long moments, his predatory instincts warring with a growing realization that this situation was not developing as he had expected. This human had not cowered before his threats. Instead, she had calmly demonstrated that he was far more dependent on her skills than she was afraid of his strength. The Enforcer's cybernetic implants flickered uncertainly as he processed this new and uncomfortable reality. For the first time in his adult life, someone had made him question whether intimidation and violence were really signs of strength or just admissions of weakness. The next morning, Maya arrived at the maintenance bay to find Vex Kalar already there, standing motionless beside her workstation. His massive form cast long shadows in the early shift lighting, and she could smell the ozone from his cybernetic implants before she even saw him. You're here early, Maya observed casually, hanging up her jacket and collecting her tools. Did you sleep at all? Or do Fenrathi Enforcers not need rest? Vex Kalar turned his head slightly, his enhanced hearing having detected her approach long before she spoke. I have been thinking about our conversation yesterday, he said, his voice lacking its usual menacing growl. About what you said regarding dependence on others. Maya raised an eyebrow as she began checking her equipment manifest for the day. And what conclusion did you reach? I believe you may have been attempting to manipulate me with psychological tactics, the Enforcer replied, though he didn't sound entirely convinced of his own words. It is a common strategy among weaker species to use mental warfare when they cannot compete physically. HFY. HFY. Is it working? Maya asked with a slight smile, pulling up the diagnostic readings on her primary workstation. Vex Kalar's cybernetic implants flickered with what might have been confusion. What do you mean? Well, if I was trying to manipulate you, The important question would be whether it's actually working. Right? Maya explained patiently. Are you here because you're angry and want revenge? Or because you're curious about something I said? The Fenrathi fell silent for several moments, his enhanced processors apparently struggling with this direct approach to psychology. In his experience, mental manipulation was supposed to be subtle and deceptive. This human was being remarkably straightforward about her potential tactics. I am here, he said finally, because my personal combat armor experienced a malfunction during my morning training session. Maya looked up from her diagnostics with genuine interest. What kind of malfunction? Vex Kalar's expression darkened. The power coupling for my left arm actuators failed. The armor became dead weight, and I was unable to complete my combat routines. He paused, then added with obvious reluctance. The ship's maintenance crew claimed they could not repair it without specialized knowledge of Fenrathi enhancement integration. Ah, Maya said, understanding immediately. So you need a mechanic after all. The enforcer's posture stiffened. I need technical assistance with malfunctioning equipment. This does not validate your previous statements about dependence. Maya couldn't help but grin at his stubborn refusal to admit the obvious. Of course not. You just happen to need help from someone with specialized technical knowledge. Totally different thing. She gestured toward an empty section of the maintenance bay. Bring your armor over here, and let me take a look. Fair warning though. I charge standard rates for non-emergency repairs, and I don't give discounts for intimidation. Vex Kalar hesitated for a moment, clearly struggling with his pride. The idea of asking for help from anyone, especially a human he had recently threatened, went against every instinct he possessed, but the alternative was returning to his ship with malfunctioning equipment, which would be seen as a sign of weakness by his fellow Fenrathi. What are your standard rates? He asked, through gritted teeth. Depends on what's wrong, Maya replied, already clearing a work area. Could be anywhere from 50 to 500 credits, plus parts. But I'll give you an estimate before I start any major work. The enforcer went to retrieve his armor from a storage container near the bay entrance. As he carried the heavy equipment back to Maya's workstation, she got her first good look at Fenrathi military technology. The armor was impressive, certainly, but also obviously over-engineered in typical Fenrathi fashion, where human designs favored efficiency and reliability. This suit seemed designed primarily to look intimidating. Nice craftsmanship, Maya said diplomatically as Vex Kalar set the armor down on her work table. Very imposing. It is designed to strike fear into the hearts of our enemies, the enforcer said with obvious pride. The aesthetic considerations are as important as the functional ones. Maya nodded while running her hands over the armor's surface, feeling for access panels and diagnostic ports. I can see that. Though I have to ask, how often do you actually wear this thing in combat? Every mission requires its use, Vex Kalar replied. It enhances my natural abilities and provides protection against most weapon systems. And how often does it break down? Maya asked, locating the main diagnostic interface and connecting her portable scanner. Vex Kalar's silence was answer enough. Maya's scanner began displaying readouts of the armor's various systems, and she whistled low as she reviewed the data. When was the last time this suit had a full maintenance cycle? She asked, pointing to several warning indicators on her screen. Maintenance is performed as needed, the enforcer said defensively. Fenrathi technology is built to last. Maintenance is performed. Maya pulled up a detailed analysis of the power coupling that had failed. Built to last, maybe, but not built to be maintainable. Look at this. She turned her screen so Vex Kalar could see the diagnostic readings. Your power coupling didn't just fail randomly. It's been degrading for weeks, maybe months. See these microfractures in the superconductor matrix? This is what happens when you don't perform regular inspections. The Fenrathi leaned closer to study the display, his cybernetic implants automatically enhancing the image. The maintenance crew on my ship assured me that the armor was in perfect condition. When was that inspection? Maya asked, already suspecting the answer. 6 months ago, before my last deployment. Maya shook her head. 6 months? This armor should be inspected every 2 weeks minimum, with full diagnostics monthly. No wonder you're having problems. She began disconnecting the failed power coupling, explaining each step as she worked. See, the problem with designing equipment to look intimidating is that you often sacrifice accessibility. These connections are buried so deep in the armor that a proper inspection would take hours. Your maintenance crew probably just ran a surface-level diagnostic and called it good. Vex Kalar watched with growing interest as Maya's skilled hands navigated the complex internals of his armor. She moved with the confidence of someone who understood not just what each component did, but why it was designed that way and how it was likely to fail. "How do you know so much about Fenrathi technology?" he asked. "I was told that most species could not understand our advanced systems." Maya laughed. "Advanced? This is basically a scaled-up version of the power armor humans developed 3 centuries ago. The principles are the same. Localized power distribution, servo-assisted movement, integrated life support. Your people just added a lot of bells and whistles." The Enforcer's cybernetic implants flared brighter as his emotional state shifted. "Are you suggesting that human technology is superior to ours?" "I'm suggesting that human engineers prioritize different things than Fenrathi engineers," Maya replied diplomatically while examining the failed component under a magnification lens. "You focus on raw power and intimidation factor. We focus on reliability and ease of maintenance." She held up the damaged power coupling so Vex Kalar could see it clearly. This component could have been designed to fail gracefully, with redundant pathways and easy field replacement. Instead, when it breaks, it takes down the entire left arm assembly. But the power output when functional is 30% higher than comparable human designs, Vex Kalar protested. "True," Maya acknowledged. "But what good is 30% more power if the system fails when you need it most? I'd rather have reliable moderate performance than unreliable peak performance." She began fabricating a replacement coupling using the Bayes Matter compiler, adjusting the design specifications as she worked. "I'm making a few modifications to improve long-term reliability. Nothing that will affect performance. Just better materials and improved stress distribution." Vex Kalar watched the fabrication process with fascination. Human manufacturing technology was different from what he was used to. More precise, more adaptable. Where Fenrathi factories produced identical components in massive quantities, this human machine could create custom parts optimized for specific requirements. "Why are you helping me?" he asked suddenly. "Yesterday I threatened you. And today you are improving my equipment." Maya paused in her work and considered the question. "Honestly? Because you asked nicely." "Well, nicely for a Fenrathi enforcer anyway. And because I'm curious about your technology. That is all?" "That's all," Maya confirmed. "I fix things. It's what I do. Doesn't matter if it's a plasma conduit or a power coupling or a damaged ego. If it's broken and I can fix it, I will." The enforcer fell silent again, processing this information. In his culture, help was given only in exchange for loyalty or payment or fear. The idea that someone might help simply because they could was foreign to him. Maya finished installing the new coupling and ran a series of diagnostic tests. "There we go. This should give you much better reliability. I've also uploaded a proper maintenance schedule to your armor's computer. Follow it, and you shouldn't have any more unexpected failures." Vex Kalar activated his armor's systems and ran through a series of movement tests. The response was immediate and smooth, better than he remembered. "The performance improvement is noticeable," he admitted grudgingly. "That's what proper maintenance will do for you," Maya said with satisfaction. "Your bill comes to 200 credits for the repair. Plus, I'm throwing in the maintenance schedule for free." The enforcer transferred the payment without complaint, then hesitated before leaving. "You said yesterday that real strength comes from solving problems, rather than creating them." "That's right. I have been thinking about this concept. In my culture, strength is measured by one's ability to defeat enemies in combat. But you suggest there are other measures of strength." Maya leaned against her workstation and studied the massive alien. "What do you think? You're obviously intelligent. You've been thinking about this all night." What conclusion have you reached? Vex Kalar's cybernetic implants dimmed as he considered his words carefully. I think perhaps I have been measuring myself by too narrow a definition. A warrior who cannot maintain his own equipment is dependent on others, whether he admits it or not. That's a good start, Maya agreed. Real independence comes from understanding how things work, not just how to use them. Would you? The enforcer began, then stopped himself. What he was about to ask went against everything he had been taught about strength and self-reliance. Would I what? Maya prompted gently. Would you be willing to teach me about equipment maintenance? Vex Kalar asked quickly, as if saying it fast would make it less embarrassing. I could pay for your time, or provide security services in exchange for training. Maya smiled. I'd be happy to teach you. No payment necessary. I enjoy sharing knowledge with people who want to learn. When do you want to start? Irie said. The transformation in Vex Kalar's demeanor was subtle but noticeable. His aggressive posture had relaxed slightly, and his cybernetic implants had settled into a steady, calm glow instead of their usual threatening flicker. I have time now, if you are available, he said. My ship does not depart for another 2 days. Perfect, Maya said, pulling up a schematic of his armor on her main display. Let's start with basic diagnostic procedures. First thing you need to understand is how to read these displays properly. As she began explaining the various indicators and warning systems, Maya noticed that Vex Kalar was an attentive student. His enhanced memory allowed him to absorb information quickly, and his questions showed that he was thinking critically about what she was teaching him. For the first time since his arrival on Station Omega-7, the Fenrathi enforcer was learning something more valuable than how to intimidate others. He was learning how to rely on himself in a completely new way. 2 weeks after Vex Kalar's scheduled departure from Station Omega-7, he was still there, much to everyone's surprise. The feared Fenrathi enforcer had requested extended shore leave from his clan, citing technical research opportunities. What he didn't mention was that he had become fascinated with human engineering philosophy and was spending every available moment in the maintenance bay learning from Maya. The transformation was remarkable to witness. The same alien who had terrorized dock workers was now carefully adjusting servo calibrations under Maya's patient guidance, his massive claws surprisingly gentle when handling delicate components. Remember, the goal isn't maximum power output, Maya explained as she watched him work on a practice circuit board. It's optimal performance over time. Better to have a system that works reliably for 10 years than one that works perfectly for 6 months and then fails catastrophically. Vex Kalar nodded. His cybernetic implants dimmed to a soft blue glow that indicated concentration rather than aggression. This is contrary to everything I was taught about engineering, he admitted. Fenrathi designs prioritize peak performance above all else. And how's that working out for your people? Maya asked with a wry smile. The enforcer paused in his work and considered the question seriously. Our ships spend 40% of their operational time undergoing repairs, he said slowly. Our weapons platforms require constant maintenance. Our personal equipment fails regularly during critical missions. Sounds expensive, Maya observed. Extremely expensive, Vex Kalar confirmed. The Fenrathi military budget allocates more resources to maintenance and replacement than any other single category. Maya pulled up a comparison chart on her workstation screen. Look at this. Human military equipment has an operational readiness rate of 92%. Your data suggests Fenrathi equipment runs at about 60% readiness. That's not a technological gap. That's a philosophical one. The implications were staggering to Vex Kalar. His people prided themselves on their military superiority. But the numbers didn't lie. Human forces could field nearly twice as many functional units at any given time, simply because their equipment broke down less often. This explains much about recent conflicts, he mused. We have often struggled to understand how smaller human forces could achieve victory against superior Fenrathi numbers. Superior numbers don't help if half your equipment doesn't work when you need it, Maya pointed out. And that's not even considering the logistics. How many extra ships do you need just to carry spare parts and repair crews? Vex Kalar's enhanced memory began calculating the resource allocation inefficiencies Maya was describing. The results were sobering. Fenrathi military doctrine was based on fundamentally flawed assumptions about the relationship between power and reliability. I need to report this to my clan leaders, he said suddenly, standing up from his workstation. Hold on, Maya said, raising a hand. Before you go running off to revolutionize Fenrathi engineering, maybe finish learning the basics first. Understanding the problem is only half the solution. The enforcer settled back into his chair, recognizing the wisdom in her suggestion. You are correct. I must learn to properly maintain equipment before I can teach others to design it better. Over the following days, Maya introduced Vex Kalar to increasingly complex concepts. She taught him about preventive maintenance schedules, failure analysis, and design optimization for long-term reliability. More importantly, she taught him to think like an engineer rather than a warrior. The key, she explained while they worked together on rebuilding a plasma generator, is to anticipate problems before they happen. Don't just react to failures. Predict them and prevent them. Vex Kalar was proving to be an excellent student. His enhanced cognitive abilities allowed him to absorb technical information rapidly, while his military background gave him an appreciation for the life-or-death importance of reliable equipment. But the most significant change was in his attitude, where once he had solved problems through intimidation and violence, he now approached challenges with methodical analysis. When a particularly stubborn component refused to align properly, instead of forcing it into place, he stepped back to understand why it wasn't fitting correctly. The tolerance specifications are wrong, he announced after careful measurement. This component was manufactured with a 0.03 mm deviation from standard. Good catch, Maya said approvingly. What's your solution? Vex Kalar considered the options. I could force it to fit, but that would create stress fractures that would lead to premature failure. Better to machine a new component with correct specifications. Exactly right. The quick fix creates bigger problems down the road. As they worked side by side fabricating the replacement part, Maya reflected on how much the Fenrathi had changed in just 2 weeks. His aggressive posturing had been replaced by thoughtful consideration. His quick temper had given way to patient analysis. Most remarkably, his need to dominate others had evolved into a genuine desire to learn and improve. Maya, Vex Kalar said during a quiet moment, I owe you an apology for my behavior when I first arrived. You already apologized, Maya replied, not looking up from her work. No, I acknowledge that my behavior was inappropriate. That is different from a true apology. The enforcer set down his tools and faced her directly. Somanos, I treated you and the other station personnel as inferior beings because I was afraid of appearing weak. I understand now that real weakness is being too proud to learn from others. Maya met his gaze steadily. Apology accepted. But the real test isn't what you say. It's what you do going forward. 2005. 2005. I have been thinking about that as well, Vex Kalar said. When I return to my clan, I want to propose changes to our engineering and military doctrine. But I suspect they will not be easily convinced by my words alone. Then don't use words, Maya suggested. Use results. Show them what proper maintenance and design can achieve. How do you mean? Maya smiled and gestured around the maintenance bay. You've learned enough now to maintain your own equipment properly. Your armor, your weapons, your ship systems. Keep them in peak condition, using what I've taught you. When your fellow warriors see the difference in performance and reliability, they'll want to know your secret. The idea was appealing to Vex Kalar. Instead of trying to convince his proud people that they needed to change their ways, he could simply demonstrate the benefits of better engineering practices. That could work, he agreed. Lead by example rather than by argument. Exactly. And when they're ready to listen, you'll have the knowledge to teach them. Their conversation was interrupted by an emergency alarm echoing through the station. Maya quickly checked her communication panel to see what was happening. Pirate raid in progress, she announced, reading the tactical display. 3 ships, heavily armed. They're demanding tribute from the merchant convoy that arrived yesterday. Vex Kalar's posture immediately shifted back to combat readiness, his cybernetic implants flaring brighter as his enhanced senses activated. Where is the station security force? We don't have one, Maya replied calmly, already beginning to secure sensitive equipment. Omega-7 is a neutral trading post. We rely on visiting ships for protection. And the merchant convoy? Maya checked the tactical display again. Looks like they're preparing to run rather than fight. Can't say I blame them. Their ships aren't equipped for combat. Vex Kalar stood up abruptly. This is unacceptable. Pirates prey on the weak because no one challenges them. What are you planning to do about it? Maya asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. I am going to remind these pirates why attacking a station under Fenrathi protection is a poor decision, the enforcer replied grimly, heading toward the door. Wait, Maya called after him. Your armor isn't here. It's back on your ship. Vex Kalar paused, considering this complication. In the old days, he might have charged into battle anyway, relying on his natural abilities and whatever weapons were available. But Maya's lessons had taught him the importance of proper preparation. You are right, he said, returning to the workstation. Proper equipment maintenance includes having your gear available when needed. He activated his communicator to contact his ship. This is Vex Kalar. Prepare my armor and combat equipment for immediate deployment. While they waited for his equipment to arrive, Maya pulled up detailed schematics of the pirate vessels on her display. 3 ships, moderate armament, older designs, she observed. Standard pirate configuration. Optimized for intimidation and speed rather than sustained combat. Vex Kalar studied the tactical data with new eyes, applying the analytical approach Maya had taught him. Their weapons systems appear to be overcharged for maximum intimidation effect. This suggests poor long-term reliability and limited ammunition capacity. Good analysis. What's your tactical assessment? If I can survive their initial barrage, their systems will likely begin failing due to overheating and component stress. A prolonged engagement favors a properly maintained vessel. Maya nodded approvingly. Sounds like you've learned something about the importance of reliability over raw power. 9. When Vex Kalar's armor arrived, Maya helped him perform a complete pre-combat diagnostic, checking every system and connection. The process took 10 minutes longer than the enforcer was used to, but every component showed green across the board. Good hunting, Maya said as he prepared to depart. Try not to break anything I just fixed. Vex Kalar paused at the door of the maintenance bay. Maya, I want you to know that you have changed how I see strength. Real power comes not from the ability to destroy, but from the knowledge to build and maintain. Remember that when you're facing those pirates, Maya replied. Superior maintenance and preparation beat superior firepower every time. The battle that followed was brief and decisive. Vex Kalar's properly maintained ship and equipment performed flawlessly throughout the engagement, while the pirates' overstressed systems began failing exactly as predicted. Within 20 minutes, all 3 pirate vessels had surrendered rather than face complete destruction. When Vex Kalar returned to the station, he found Maya in the maintenance bay, calmly working on her regular projects as if nothing had happened. How did it go? She asked without looking up from her plasma conduit. Exactly as you predicted, the enforcer replied, removing his armor with careful attention to proper storage procedures. Their weapons overheated after the first engagement, and their shields failed due to power coupling problems similar to what my armor experienced. Sounds like they need a good mechanic, Maya observed with a smile. Vex Kalar checked his equipment thoroughly before securing it. Following the maintenance protocols Maya had drilled into him, I offered them the opportunity to surrender and receive proper training in equipment maintenance in exchange for abandoning piracy. And they accepted. It seems that constant equipment failures were making piracy unprofitable for them. The enforcer paused thoughtfully. I am beginning to understand that many conflicts arise from practical problems that could be solved through better engineering rather than violence. Maya finally looked up from her work, studying the transformed alien warrior. So what happens now? You've got a choice to make. I know, Vexcalar replied. I can return to my clan and continue being an enforcer, using what you have taught me to be more effective at violence. Or I can find a different path. What does your gut tell you? The Fenrathi was quiet for a long moment, his cybernetic implants glowing softly as he processed the question. It tells me that I have spent my entire adult life being feared by others, but in these past weeks, working with you, I have experienced something I never knew I wanted, which is respect earned through competence rather than intimidation. The satisfaction of solving problems rather than creating them. The knowledge that my actions make things better rather than worse. Maya nodded slowly. Those are good things to want. So what's your plan? Vexcalar straightened to his full height, but his posture was different now, confident without being threatening, strong without being aggressive. I am going to request reassignment from enforcement to engineering. My clan needs someone who understands both warrior discipline and proper technical maintenance. That's going to be a big change for everyone involved, Maya warned. Are you ready for the resistance you'll face? I am, the former enforcer replied, with quiet conviction. Because I now understand what you meant about real strength. It is not about being feared, it is about being useful, and I would rather be useful than feared. Maya smiled and returned to her work. Well then, Vexcalar, I think you've found your place. Not the one you were born to, but the one you chose for yourself. As the reformed Fenrathi carefully organized his tools according to proper maintenance protocols, he reflected on how a simple conversation with a human mechanic had completely changed his understanding of power, strength, and what it truly meant to be formidable. The alien wolf beast who had once feared no one had learned something far more valuable than fear. He had learned respect, both for others and for himself.